Okay, to begin using the cupcake mix recipe cards, it's really simple. If you've cut 5 by 5 inch squares, that'll work fine. Or you can get a charm pack and use those like I have here. You put them right side up, two right sides together, if this was a printed one, and right sides together again. Now 2 of these, when I've sewn these all together and everything, they will make one block that looks like this. Or, depending on how you put it together, a block that looks like this. So what you do is you take a recipe card, one goes with this one, and one goes with this one. Then I just take a pin and pin this side, and pin this side. So, well, again, you'll need to do 2 of these to make one 6 by 6 inch block to end with one, a final one. Okay. So what you'll do now is you'll take this to the sewing machine, and there's a number 1 on here and a little star here that says start. You're going to start sewing here on the dotted lines. You sew on all the dotted lines and you cut on all of these solid black lines. So I will sew up here all the way to the end, pivot, and then come back down this way, and that's all the sewing I need to do, again on 2 of them, to make one 6 inch block. So I have some of them sewn here. Okay, 2 of them. Actually I have more than that. So what I would do next is just take my ruler and cut this on that solid line in the center of these 2. And as I said, you're going to cut on all of the solid lines. When I first did my first one, I didn't pay attention, and I didn't cut along here on the solid line. So it's again on every solid line. So next I will cut this triangle there. Okay, and there's another solid line. So I'll cut here. Okay, and this is going to end up being my half square triangles. I can show you if I just kind of bend this a little bit, it makes it easier to pull it out, the paper out. And actually what I like to do is sew a bunch of these together, and then when I'm in front of the TV or something at night, you can just easily tear that out like that. And then here's your half square triangle. And in this case, I would probably press to the dark side like this, since these are so tiny. Okay. So again though, I'm back to this. I'm going to cut on all of the solid lines. So I'm going to cut here, and then there's another solid line on this triangle. So I'm going to cut here. Okay. And if you don't remember to do that, your pieces will not turn out to be the right size. And I can show you how I know that in just a second. So again, I'm going to cut on this solid line and on this solid line. And for the squares, it's also important that you cut on the solid lines. So I can do this like this if I want to. Line this solid line and this one, so I can just make a cut up, boop, and then go over. Okay. Now it's not done yet because there's 2 more solid lines on here I have to cut. Like this. Okay, there's those. Oops, let's get all the scraps out of here. That is not a scrap. And then I would do the same thing to this one, cutting again on all of the solid lines, and the same on this one. And when I finish cutting all this together out, I will have enough pieces to make, as I said, one 6-inch square. Now, as I said, I was going to show you what happens if you don't remember to cut on the solid line right here where the square is, or when you're on the triangles if you don't cut this solid black line perfectly. This is the first one I did. It's supposed to measure a 6 by 6 inch block. Well, I did have an issue, a few issues with this one, but anyway, it doesn't measure 6 by 6. It actually measures about 7 1/4 by 7 1/4. So what had happened was I didn't cut off all those little spots that I was supposed to cut, for example, again, around the square. This one, however, measures exactly what it is supposed to measure. And it's 6 1/2 by 6 1/2. Now that's because the finished size, when I sew this into something else, it will be a 6 inch by 6 inch block. Because recall, when I sew it to another block right beside it, that'll take up 1/4 of an inch on this side and 1/4 of an inch on this side. So 6 1/2 minus 1/4 and 1/4 is a 6 inch finished block. So that's it. It's easy as that. Okay, to get started on this block, the first thing that I like to do is this. Start in the center and go out to this point, almost to the point, come around, round and back, go out to this and back, and just keep rotating my block to do this, making a little flower-ish thing in the center. Whoops, I went a little bit crazy, but you get the idea. And then, of course, I would also stitch this in the ditch. For the white section, what I think I will do, because I really like it, is pebbling. And of course it's going to show up really crazy with this purple marker, but it would just add texture and kind of pat down the outside, making this, allowing the star to stand out. Another thing I could do is just do little back and forth like this in each of the spots. Okay, or another thing that I could do is, again, revisiting the thing we've done several times already, is just this, but I really like how that looks in the corners. Okay. Of course, we could do just a micro stippling in each one of these little spots, just to, again, to pat this down so that the star is the star of the show. We could just go come straight in like this and then go out, and again, and this I could be using my walking foot for, just doing a walking foot distance away. I could kind of mimic the flowers that are in here and try to do, it's going to be hard with this pen, but just do some flowers in the center, I mean in these, and just kind of meander over and do another one. Meander over and do another one, or maybe just one big flower in the center of each of these. But again, I could do it like I had taught in the last lesson, and that was to make the cross and the diagonal. And remember, what I learned from the last time was not to go all the way up to my edges with my flowers, or that would be cut off when I sew the blocks together. So I would remember to just go inside of this a little bit, so not make it as big as what I would have made it originally. So that's just some ideas of what you could do. What I think I'll do is, I think that I will do, I actually think what I'm going to do is these flowers in the corners and the pebbling in these areas. So it'll be all pebbling here. Okay. And again, another flower here, flower here, and one here, and then pebbling. Okay, the block actually looks pretty ugly, but I think you kind of get the idea. See if I take that out and put a piece of white paper This is actually just a piece of stabilizer, tearaway stabilizer that I just ripped off, just so you can see how that's going to look. Just a rough idea of what it's going to look like. And I think it's going to be really pretty. So I'll meet you back here when it's done. I'm going to begin with a few stitches in place, making sure still that my feed dogs are down. And I'm going to start by going to this. Now I think I'll go to this side first and then continue on. Ooh, gotta take my shoe off. I don't know about you, but I like to use my foot pedal barefooted. I just feel like I have a lot more control. So I'm stitching out, kind of to the point, and then back all the way to the center again. Okay, then I'm going to rotate my block just a little bit and go out. I have 2 more to do. And then the next thing I'm going to do after that is I'm going to go stitch in the ditch the whole way around the star. One more stitch. Boop. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Now see what's happened right here. Part of my, you can see that. Part of my foot got stuck up in there, so I'm going to lift it up and make sure it's not tangled up in there before I start again. If you get off the ditch just a little bit, okay. Okay, for this next part, what I've decided to do is to mark a 1/2 inch in on these sides. I wrote a 1/2 inch there just so you could see. And then I'm going to start doing my in the center and my petals like this. Remember, I want to be away from the edges here because when I sew this block to another one, I don't want my flower to get cut off. Okay, I'm again going to pull my bobbin thread up from the bottom. And then I'll do a few stitches in place and then cut this thread, I think, this time. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to come down here and go around and begin my flower shape. Okay. And of course the pebbling, I like to go around like 1 or 1.5 times and go the other opposite direction and then go this direction and just keep varying the direction I'm going. You hear that funny noise, that's when I'm going over a lot of seams right there. But I really like how pebbling looks, and pebbling is one that I really like to make sure I'm up on my fingertips. I like to vary the sizes of them. This makes it more interesting, I think. Pebbling just seems to me to be really forgiving, especially like what I've learned from Leah Day is if you don't like how it looks, just throw some more thread on it, she says. So I'm throwing thread for sure on my pebbles. Sometimes if you're near the sides too, you can put like a half pebble like this as if it's kind of halfway covered up. But I'm going to do this in all the triangle areas of this block. I don't need to get that close to the edge because remember that's going to be in the seam allowance. Okay, let's just check this out. And there's the pebbling. I like it. The back, whoopsie, of the pebbling. Okay, I'm going to continue on with this block and get her done.